with the announcement of Pokemon ZA, it's very clear that Kalos is back and better than ever, but it left one really big question, and that is what happens with Unova moving forward. Unova is obviously the 5th generation of Pokemon, while Kalos is the 6th generation, and naturally the number 5 comes before the number 6, so some might think it's a little bit strange that Kalos is getting a new game before Unova. I mean, when you think about it, for both regions, we really haven't received a new game at all in over 10 years, and this is true for both regions, so it kind of means that it was time for something for both of these regions. But going into Pokemon Day, most people expected to see either some kind of Johto remake, or some kind of Black and White remake, or spin-off, or something along those lines. Really not a lot of people were expecting anything from Kalos. I've already kind of talked about why Kalos made the most sense to me as far as like getting a new game, in another video, but to briefly sum it up, I'll basically just say this much. Kalos really didn't receive anything besides X and Y. We never got a Pokemon Z, we never got an X and Y 2, we never got spin-off games. We just have X and Y for Kalos. So to me, it made the most sense that they take X and Y, they take the Kalos region, and they give us something new, because a lot of people just haven't had the chance to play through that region. Now that being said, this video is about the Unova region specifically. This is a big region, and and Gen 5 was kind of one of those reset points for the Pokemon company. It's the first generation where in Black and White there was no previous Pokemon available. It was just a brand new region, whole new Pokedex. It just kind of felt like a reset to the franchise. And for a span of time, it kind of just dominated. Like, we got Black and White, we skipped a year, and then we got Black and White 2. It's the first time we got like a direct sequel like that instead of just a third version of a game. We just got actual sequels to the game. Since 2012, we haven't gotten anything from the Unova region. So it's been 12 years now, going on 13. As of next year. So it is kind of time. It's kind of due, for something Unova related. So today I want to kind of talk a little bit about what I think they should do with Unova and what I think they might actually do moving forward. And luckily, I'm so old that I still have my pre-order bonus from when X and Y actually came out, and it was this giant poster of a timeline of like the Pokemon releases. You know what I'm saying? We kind of have a timeline right here to look at all the releases and kind of match up the patterns and kind of figure out what might they actually do here. Okay, but in all seriousness, when you look at the history of Pokemon releases, there's really not a clear pattern. They've kind of changed it up throughout the years. There's a couple years where we have gap years where there's really no big releases at all. And then, as of 2016, we're just getting games pumped out like left and right with DLC. Like every year, it's just nonstop. That being said, though, I do think it's going to change up a little bit here going into 2025. I do think that for 2024, we're not going to get a major Pokemon release. I really don't think they're going to give us one. As most people already know, the Switch has been out forever. It feels like, I think the Switch came out officially in 2017. I know that's when I picked up mine. So it's been a hot minute. We're on like year 7 right now, going on year 8. It's beginning to be the end of the Nintendo Switch era, and that means that we're moving forward to the next generation console. So what we do already know is that Legends ZA will be available on the Switch. They already announced it. They had the little Switch logo pop up whenever the trailer started. But obviously this game is going to be on the Switch, and I do believe it's going to be the last big Pokemon game offered on the Switch. That also leads me to believe that Legends ZA will be releasing towards the beginning of next year instead of towards the end of next year. When you look at a game like Legends Arceus, it kind of just felt like a test as to like what might be possible in the future for Pokemon. It's the first time we got a game that was really completely different from anything we've ever received before, and it just it felt like they experimented a lot. Like the battle system was very different from anything we've ever had. Just the overall like progression through the game, like the different Pokemon you can catch, the way that you catch the Pokemon, it just felt like a whole new genre for Pokemon in general. Pretty much from the start, I feel like the public reception, like a lot of people really enjoyed this game. Obviously there's a handful of people that it was boring, or like there's nothing to do. Like, I don't understand those people, to be honest. Most people really enjoy Legends Arceus, and it's because Pokemon took a risk. They did something different, like for the first time ever, it felt like, and it really paid off. Now keep in mind, Legends Arceus came out pretty much right after Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and like before Scarlet and Violet, so it kind of like, I feel like it didn't have time to really shine. It had like that 5-6 month period where it was really shining. After that, like Scarlet and Violet came on, like bam, we're moving on to the next thing, keep it moving, you know what I'm saying? And that means that the Diamond and Pearl remakes, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, they had an even shorter shelf life. Like they lasted a couple months and off to the next thing basically. I feel like those games really didn't have a chance to shine whatsoever, despite the name Shining Pearl. I'm brilliant, I know I am. Anyways, it's really unfortunate. And so for me personally, I feel like with Unova, it's been hyped up for so long. A lot of people consider Black and White 2 to be like the best games of all time, story-wise especially. I don't think that they're gonna give us some like bland, like carbon copy of a remake and just pump it out on the Switch real quick this year. I feel like they want to hype it up a little bit more. I think they want to, you know, make it bigger and better. I really don't see them releasing any kind of Unova anything this year, and especially not on the Switch. And the thing about Unova is I feel like there's so many different directions they can go with this. They can give us like a Black and White 3. They can give us like kind of like a Pokemon Gray that people have talked about in the past. Maybe like some kind of prequel, maybe just a Legends game, you know, for that. There's a lot of different ways that they can go. But I feel like, you know, in order to understand what they might do for Unova, we kind of have to like talk about what they've done in the past with successful remakes. I mean, even from the start, you know, my first ever Pokemon game was Fire Red. Like, that was my very first Pokemon game. But even that game right there, which came out 2004, so about what, 6 years after the international release of Red and Blue, if I'm not mistaken. You know, so not too long after the original games came out. But even, you know, Fire Red Leaf Green, like, it gave us new stuff. It gave us like the Sevi Islands. You know, at that point, like, the battle system was more developed. Like, there was just a lot more, I feel like, involved with that game. Obviously, you know, it was true to the original games, but it definitely gave us a little bit more to look forward to. And honestly, the same can be said for Heart Gold and Soul Silver. These are my personal favorite games of all time. You know, I'm a little biased here, maybe. You know, I keep talking about my favorite games, which happen to be remakes, you know. But I feel like these games, they just did it right, you know. Like, they introduced things that people really enjoyed, you know, having Pokemon follow you, and you know, the Pokewalker, different things like that. Just to really, you know, market this game, make it successful, and bring in a whole new audience. Now, all that being said, I think we have to look at the Generation 3 remakes to really understand what they might do for Gen 5. And I'm talking about Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, the games that introduce primals, that introduce more Mega Evolutions, and the games that really just introduce like so much in general. Now, it's obviously clear from the Pokemon ZA trailer that Mega Evolution is back. And my guess is that it's here to stay, at least for a little bit. I don't think that they would bring back a gimmick like Mega Evolution. I call it a gimmick, but I mean, I feel like, you know, I don't really consider it a gimmick, but like, people call it the gimmick, you know, of Gen 6. But either way, I don't think they would bring, you know, Mega Evolution back just to bring it for like a Legends game and just never talk about it again, right? Like, I feel like if they're bringing Mega Evolution back, obviously they kind of have to because it's Gen 6. But I feel like they would go ahead and bring it back for whatever follows this next game. And what happened with Alpha Sapphire, Omega Ruby is Mega Evolutions were in that game just as they were previously in X and Y. Now, when you look at a game like Hoenn, right, obviously Generation 3 Megas never existed, right? But in the remakes, they did exist, and they brought new Megas and just new stuff that like expanded upon what X and Y introduced us to. I really think that Legends ZA is going to kind of give us a little bit more background on just Mega Evolution in general, and just kind of like, you know, talk about it a little bit. But I really think this is something that could tie into like a future game like Black and White. And I really think that, you know, with a Black and White, you know, remake or whatever they decide to do with Unova, I feel like they're going to kind of tie it into that just a little bit here. You know, this is one thing I've always said, even from the start, but I just find it so strange that there's really no Gen 5 Pokemon that have Mega Evolution besides Audino. That's it. Like, there's so many cool Gen 5 Pokemon. I always thought it was so strange that Gen 5 just never had Megas whatsoever. And I feel like that alone just opens up so many possibilities to have Megas in some kind of Unova game. I mean, there's obviously no guarantee that Megas are just going to be around forever, but again, I don't think they would bring this concept back just to like can it after one game. And especially if Legends ZA is not considered a main series game, right? I don't see why they would just bring it back and just like do nothing else with it in the future. I could be coping because I really like Mega Evolutions, but it just makes the most sense to me, honestly. And I feel like the fact that now we kind of understand what a Legends game is because we have that experience with Legends Arceus, it just hypes people up even more because people are just excited to, you know, play through another region of this, and especially because it's Kalos, it's been so long, and I feel like they're gonna really kind of build upon this hype. Like, I think most people by this point are perfectly okay with no Pokemon game being released in 2024. I know I'm personally okay with it. I know a lot of people I've seen on Twitter are personally okay with it. So I don't think it's any issue at all for like nothing to be released this year. I'm sure they're going to release something. I don't know what it's going to be, but I don't think it's going to be any main series game. I don't think it's going to be a Unova remake. It just makes the most sense to kind of push it back a little bit, probably to the next generation console, just to really kind of launch that console off right there. If I had to guess, I would say we're getting nothing like huge this year in 2024. I'm thinking Legends ZA is going to come out early 2025. My guess would be that we get some kind of Unova game by the end of 2025. Or if we're lucky, they'll push it down to even 2026. That way they have just a little more time to develop and, you know, get all those bugs out. But I mean, hey, anything's possible. Back in 04, Fire Red and Leaf Green released the same year as Emerald, so it wouldn't be the craziest thing. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of ways they can go about doing this, but to me, it makes the most sense to kind of follow the Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire approach. And that is basically give us a remake, but also introduce, you know, lots of new things. You know, maybe keep Mega Evolution around. You know, I think there's just a lot of cool things that they could do with Unova. There's a lot of story in Unova. That's why a lot of people really like that region. And I feel like just doing a carbon copy remake like Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, I just don't think it does the region justice. But if you're a big Unova fan, you're sad about all the Kalos news, like I don't think there's any need to worry. Obviously, they're gonna bring back Unova one day, whether it's this year, next year, in 2 years, in 5 years, we're gonna get it back someday. But here's the good news though. The good news is Black and White 2, they're still out there and they're still pretty much perfect. So enjoy those for now. That being said, let me know in the comments what you guys think. Let me know if I sound crazy, if I'm just coping with the Megas thing. It just makes sense to me, you know, you know, they're bringing Megas back. Obviously, it's something that people really enjoy. I'm sure that they see most people really enjoy that. So I don't think they're gonna bring it back for like spin-off game and then just throw it out the window. You know what I mean? I think they're gonna stay for a little bit, you know, maybe like a year or two. We'll get to have Megas. And if you guys enjoy the Pokemon content, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm definitely gonna make some more stuff regarding Pokemon Legends, ZA, and just Pokemon in general. I love Kalos, so I'm super excited for these games. But I also have, you know, got room in there for Unova as well, so I'm really excited about Unova as well. Thank you all for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.